In my first Teacher Summer Series video, I mentioned the potential for side hustles slash hobbies, including having a blog and a YouTube channel. So this week, today's video is about tips if you want to start a blog, and then Fridays will be tips if you want to start a YouTube video. So if you don't want to miss out, go ahead and subscribe below. The first thing you should really consider is, what do you want the blog to be now, but also in the future? Is it just a way of sharing your thoughts? Great, might as well go with a free one. Do you want it to be a side hustle now or in the future? In that case, I recommend paying and self-hosting so that you have more control over your content, right? So I use WordPress. There are other options, but I'm going to go with what I know. And so as an example, this is a WordPress.org website because it's self-hosted using SiteGround, which I'll explain in a second. So I have my website stuff, and then part of it is a blog. It's WordPress, but it is self-hosted, okay? So WordPress.com is where you can go and get free WordPress websites. Obviously, you can pay for upgrades, but here's an example of a free WordPress website that I have created when I was teaching one of my composition courses in which each student had to create their own blog. We did that for free using WordPress.com. So it's still a website, still has different pages, right? But it's completely free. One big difference is, as you can see here, I did not pay for a domain. I used a free one. So compositioninquiry.wordpress.com, that WordPress signals that it's a free WordPress site, versus my usual actual website is justevereducating.com, because I pay for my domain and I pay for my hosting. Now, as far as hosting goes, like I said, I use SiteGround, but before I used DreamHost. So just to kind of show you here, another tip I have is that if you do decide to go the self-hosting route, you do want to have more control, then I recommend, when you're doing your research on these hosting, when you decide on one, go ahead, and if you do think, this is definitely something that you can see yourself doing, long term, go for as much of the good starting price as possible. So if you're totally new, there's always a sale. And so, for example, here, you're a starter, okay, shared, and that's what I used when I used this one. And so in this case, it's starting at $3 a month, right? So you're saving a lot because they want to really get you in, right? So you can kind of see, make sure it's right for you. And then when you sign up, they often have, do you want to pay for 1 year at this price, or 2 years, or 3 years, right? And so you can get a sense of, well, okay, I do think I'm going to keep it for a while. You might as well just do that 2 or 3 years, because you'll only get that great price that first time you sign up because you're a new user. After that, you'll be paying full price, whatever it is for your website. Okay. Now, the other one, so the one I use is SiteGround. Okay. Once I got, I think I was 3 years in when I switched to SiteGround. And again, in this case, there's always a special price for new users. So as you can see here, $5 a month, which usually it's $15 a month. Okay. And this is the plan that I use, the startup one. And so again, when you say get plan, you can sign up for more than 1 year at a time. And again, I recommend that if you can get that really good price for more than just the 1 year. So these are the two I've used. I had no problem with DreamHost, but as my website got bigger, I decided to go with one that has a bit more speed, a bit more services. And I was out of, the sales price that I bought it from. So I went ahead and chose SiteGround and then transferred everything over. Okay, so choose a self-hosting site if you want to do it that way, or you can go completely free with WordPress.com. Okay, something to consider is that when you have the free one, you can't add any plugins to the free account, right? So this is the dashboard of my free one. And if I go to plugins, which is where you add different aspects to it, to your website, help with doing SEO, help if you want to make a little shop, these are popular ones, but you need to upgrade in order to actually have any plugins on your website. So that's a huge limitation for me, which again is why I don't recommend this route unless it's really just about, I want to share, text on my blog. I don't want to do anything fancy. Okay, go for it, right? But it is pretty limiting. Whereas with my usual website, if I go to plugins, I can go ahead and add as many as I like, and plenty of them are free, right? So here are some plugins that I have on my website. But other than that, these are the main things to really consider when you're going to start your blog, free or not, right? Side hustle or just a hobby, okay? What kind of self-hosting or do you want if you are doing it that route? Paying for domain, I went ahead and bought my domain using DreamHost, and then I bought my domain using SiteGround. When I switched websites, I also switched the name of my website. So I went from something that's hard to pronounce to Ever Educating. So you can consider that. But there are other options, GoDaddy, etc., for buying your domains. Okay, my domains are about $15 a year, so very inexpensive. And I do recommend. So I pay for .com, .org, and .net. So if you do any of those ends for the domain, it will take you to my website, the .com one. Okay. I recommend that just to make sure that you have .com, but then someone buys .net, right, or .org, and now there's confusion about where you're going, right? Someone goes to .net and they end up on a completely different website than yours. You would hope no one would buy those after you buy your .com, but they might trying to edge you out, right? So they hope that if they have .net and .org and there's confusion, that you'll give in and give up the .com, right? Or you'll let them buy it from you for cheap. So there is that kind of strategy there. So I do pay, again, $15 for each of those domains a year. Okay, so that is $45 a year. And so that's kind of this element of how much you want to pay for your blog. Okay. In my case, since it is part of my side hustle, I don't mind paying for it, right? Since I want to have control over it, I don't mind paying for it. But maybe that's not where you're at right now, not something you can afford. And so again, WordPress, really easy, user-friendly, in my opinion, the free version. But there's also, I think Squarespace might have a free one, Weebly, Wix. So there are some options there that you can see which works best for you. And while I'm not going to get into like intense tips as far as like setting up your blog, this isn't a tutorial video, though I do have a video about WordPress that I'll link below. One thing I really recommend when you create a blog is to make sure you have a categories section in your sidebar or in your footer somewhere on your website page, so that's easy for readers to get to what they really want. So in this case, when this is my class website, I can go ahead and say, go to students, and these are the blog posts that are specifically me speaking to my students. Versus the content examples, these are blog posts that are examples of what they should be writing for the various assignments. Okay, so as your blog gets bigger and you have more and more and more posts, organization is going to be really key. For my regular website, if you go here, right, select category, and I have all these different types of category. So someone can go here and say, okay, I teach children's and young adult literature. I want to see what blog posts are specifically about that topic. Okay, and I have 3 pages worth of that. Okay, I teach ELA, English Language Arts. I want to see blog posts specifically about that content. Now there's 4 pages worth of that, right? I want teaching with technology blog post. Okay, so as far as blog goes, you're going to have to do a lot of trial and error. But to me, the top thing to have is the categories in the sidebar or in the footer, depending on your website design. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. If you are interested in the tools that I use, I'll link some referral links below in case you're interested. I'd appreciate it. I'm curious, if you want to start a blog, what topic do you want to cover? Let me know in the comments below. And again, next video, we'll talk about creating a YouTube channel instead.